Oh, she's taking that coffee with her. Hi there. I'm Colleen. I'm a grateful recovering member of this program. And what I'd like to do first is just have a moment of silence to invite my higher power in, our higher power, whom I choose to call God. Thank you. Let's see. I think I was the 18th person they asked to do this. This is kind of, I understand how this convention was rolling along. It was like, can you know? I was like, okay. One of my recovery brothers approached me after a meeting, and he was looking at me like this. I was like, what? And the two of them were kind of like, what is it? And they said, would you? And I thought, when I hear an opportunity for service, I always kind of like look up and go, God, give me it. What do you want? And I felt centered. And I said, okay, let's do it. And I get a little nervous sometimes before I speak. But then when I get up here, I realize you're my family. You're my recovery family. And you're my extended cousins, aunts, uncles, a lot of sisters, a lot of amazing recovery sisters. And I'm grateful for that, so it makes me feel calm the minute I get up here because I know I'm not in charge. Thank heaven. Used to be in charge quite a bit, but I'm still working on that. This past week, I was watching television with my husband, and there was a program about World War II. And I heard it said, an Army psychiatrist said, after 240 days of combat, soldiers needed to get out or they would go mad. They would have what was known as shell shock or some other type of great disruption in their brain. And I thought, what's happened to me? What war and combat have I lived through that has changed me here? And I remember coming into my first 6 beginner meetings in Haddon Heights. And my first 6 beginner meetings, a lovely, generous woman of spirit smiled at me through my tears, just flowing. And she was kind and she was loving, and I didn't really know what that looked like. I knew what kind and loving looked like when there was a manipulation involved, but kind and loving with nobody wanting anything from me, I'd never seen that before, and it was weird. And my first 6 beginner meetings, all I did was cry. I think what I was doing was letting go of what I thought I knew. I knew a lot when I came in here. I knew a hell of a lot, and I knew how everybody should be running my show. And if you didn't, there would be hell to pay. I was very, very angry. And coming in here and being really, really angry, I had no idea what it was like to start to let go of that anger. When they asked me about being a spiritual speaker, I remember my first spiritual speaker I heard was in the rooms of the AA convention. And a sponsee of mine who's a double winner, who's no longer with us, she said to me, she was from South Philly, she said, "Call, you got to go. You got to see this." I said, "I didn't hear about it." "You got to go." So I said, okay, I'll refer to her as Jay. And I said, okay, Jay. And we sat together, and I was blown away. I thought, what kind of amazing job is that, to talk about how God has worked in your life? Can you beat that? And look where I am. Amazing. I looked up in the Webster's Dictionary. I like to get a little technical because what it does is it refocuses my brain that goes all out. Spirit comes from Latin, spiritus, and this is what the Webster's Dictionary says. Forgive me, it's not conference approved. Breath, courage, the soul, life. The intelligent, immaterial, and immortal part of man. The soul as distinguished from the body, which it occupies. The soul distinguished from the body, which it occupies. And then way down in the description goes, liquid obtained by distillation, especially alcohol. Kind of interesting. And then I got to spiritual, and it says about spiritual, not material, consisting of spirit, pertaining to the soul or its affections as influenced by the divine spirit. That's a definition, a divine spirit. So when I came in, my soul was way out there, not in here, because I was clogging up that pipeline to my higher power with me. I recently spoke with a sponsee, and I have a couple of women that I sponsor, which is so amazing. If you don't think you can do service, challenge yourself. Somebody asks you to sponsor, get a phone call. Yeah, go ahead, try it. Just try it. It's amazing how it works. I spoke with a sponsee the other day, and these women helped me really to grow. And it reminded me of how when I first came into these rooms, I spent a lot of time in my car. I envisioned alcoholism as driving my car. I would be in the car, and alcoholism would sit in my lap, drive the car, steer, adjust the mirrors, tell me what to focus on, move things all the way, and I would just be, okay, you're running the show here. And after a while, being in program for a little while, I go, wait a minute, this doesn't have to drive. I don't have to react. I don't have to do this or that. I said, after a while in program, I said, get over in that seat. Move over. So then alcoholism sat in the passenger seat. Once in a while, give me one of these, a jab in the side. Come on, look at me, react, do this, do that. And then I would pick it up and I would react again, until finally, after a couple of years, I said, it's time for you to get in the back seat. Now alcoholism is in the back seat, and it's not driving anymore. It's part of my life. It's part of my journey. And my sponsee, who was going through especially difficult times, she said, you know what we can do with it once in a while? She says, throw it out the window and back over it. I thought, what a great visual. And if you didn't get it the first time, back over it again. And that's the disease. That's not the person. I'm in here, and I remember going to an open AA meeting, and a couple of the guys had said to me, I was talking about doing some service work in the AA convention. A couple of the guys went to me, made the sign of the cross, and said, oh, you're one of those. Oh, you're the enemy. And I said to him, I'm here because I love my alcoholics, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I want to make this relationship work. Shut him up. And he looked at me and he started to think of Al-Anon a little differently. And I think that's what we're also doing when we do service, is letting other people know we're here because we love. Not because we hate, but because we want to love. And that's part of my message today. Before I get to my story, there's something that's really cute, is I have 3 sisters. They're cute, but not that cute. Sorry. One of my youngest sisters tried a geographical cure, and I've been in the program, I guess, for about 16 years, and she thought, she's living in New Jersey, she thought, well, let me just move to Hawaii. That's paradise. Everything will be solved. I mean, how could it not be in Hawaii? So she moves to Hawaii, and there's a convention there, and she decides things aren't working out perfectly in Hawaii. Imagine that, living with alcoholism. So she started to attend meetings there, and a sponsee I didn't know that she was going to convention, walks up to her and says, you look familiar. And you sound even more familiar. My sisters and my voices are all very similar. And she said, have you ever been in New Jersey? And my sister went like this, jerked her head back. She said, no, but a sister of mine's in program. She said, oh, really? Yeah, she goes to Haddon Heights. And the two of them just stood there and looked, and they realized that was my sister had met a sponsee, and they were both kind of like deer caught in headlights. And my sponsee came back and shared that with me, and I just laughed, because I know that's how my higher power works. My higher power is an amazing sense of humor. And then she thought, well, Hawaii didn't really work out the way they envisioned it. Let's move to Texas. So I met a woman in Haddonfield who was visiting from Austin. Texas is a big state, mind you. And she went back to Austin, and ironically enough, she came for one meeting, one time, and I had shared something that sparked something in her, and she zipped right over to me after the meeting. We started, and I said, where are you from? Austin. I was like, oh boy, okay, let's see how God works this out. I said nothing, didn't say I have a sister or anything. She did the same thing to my sister, and my sister was like, I am so tired of this. Running but not hiding is not fun. So I just like to say that some of you who think like you're out running God, wait. If you're in these rooms, it's going to happen. The reason why I'm here is I grew up in an alcoholic home. And I did not realize how much that affected me. I shared not that long ago at an AA meeting that I was trying very hard in a lot of parts of my life to be an alcoholic, but it wouldn't take. I drank to excess. I partied my off, and I became a bartender also, because why not be in the middle of it? I love alcoholics. Let's just go all the way. And I had no idea this is what I was doing. I had done a lot of different things in my life, and I'd had enough. I'd worked on Wall Street for a while, and I said I'd have enough of that, and I'd want to do something that was a little more different, and that was what bartending was. And yeah. And I dated my husband for about 7 years before we got married. And what I would do is I would keep up with the boys. And I remember there was one particular concert that I remember for up to a point. We were at a Jerry Lee Lewis concert, and I was keeping up with the boys with tequila, and then after a while I couldn't remember anything. And I was very disturbed the next day because a couple people have told me about my actions, and I thought, there's not something really good with that. I had a blackout, and I did not remember a lot of my life. And I thought, what is going on with me? Well, as life would have it, different things happened, and I didn't have to really focus on myself very much, because when you're in a party, who needs to focus on yourself? That's the last thing you want to do. As God would have it, my husband and I, we moved out to Los Angeles. He had a job opportunity there. And while we were out there, it's funny, but it's not so funny. I realized, even then, God was working in my life, even though I wasn't allowing him to, even though I wasn't handing it over. And at one point, I remember when we were out in Los Angeles, we had the Rodney King thing happen. We had riots. We had floods. We had fires. There was one point I remember in our apartment, we had a beautiful view of Bologna Creek, which is right next to Marina del Rey. And they said, if you're nervous, which you should be, there's a fire in Malibu. We can't seem to contain it. And we could see Malibu from our beautiful view from our patio. And the fire was going up the hill, and you could see it, and there was like smoke and ash dropping from the sky. I got a sinus infection because there was so much ash in the sky. And I thought, the world is ending. This is insane. And you could see this fire. It was moving up all day. They could not contain it. And I actually have, there were scratches on my windshield from me driving around in the ash. It was really, really weird. And at one point, I have pictures of this. There was a huge black cloud that covered up the sun. It's this thick, thick smoke, and it kind of reminded me of what my life is like with alcoholism. There is the sun, the light in my life, and yet this big black cloud is so thick that I can't get through that to get to what I need to get to. And I think that's where the steps come in. The steps come in, and they help me to remember who's in charge, and it's not me. And it starts to let the cloud, this thick black cloud, lower, lower, lower. But it doesn't happen like that. And quite frankly, that's not fast enough for me. I'm sure a couple of you can relate to that, not having it work as fast as you'd like it to. With being out in California, it really hit the fan. My husband lost his job, which we moved out there for, and we had a very difficult time. I actually left him at one point, and I slept on a friend's couch who lived a little bit further down the street, and I knew enough not to talk to her about the problems, but I felt so threatened by his behavior and his addiction that I changed everything in our bank accounts. I changed everything that I possibly could to hopefully try to make myself secure. And yet I still didn't feel secure. And we ended up moving back as God would have it. We got a call out of the blue from a friend who needed somebody to pitch in for them teaching while they were going out and studying. And my husband started to teach college then. And we moved back to New Jersey, and I see God's hand in all of that. And I'm so grateful. My mother ended up getting very sick, and that was part of the reason why we moved out to California too. My mother was acting more and more crazy, and we thought it was just menopause, whatever, but we found out she had a brain tumor that was slow growing, that was pushing her brain back and was changing her personality. And it wasn't cancerous, but it was slow growing, and eventually it was maybe the size of my fist, and it had changed her personality so much. My sister and I would call each other every day, like giving new mom stories, like, crazy? Oh, you think that's crazy? I got her today, and she was doing this, this, and this. So I had no problem moving to California, but as God showed me, this isn't the place where you're supposed to be, and I got that loud and clear. When we moved back here, one thing led to another, and through a different, again, I wouldn't listen to God. I didn't want to hear him. I had my own vision of what's supposed to happen. And God was just not cooperating. I said, I always thought, I'd worked on Wall Street, and mind you, I had taken Intro to Algebra twice. And to let you know what my self-will looks like, I worked on Wall Street. I was assistant treasurer to a commodities house. They fired my boss. I ended up working as treasurer. So I didn't know what I was doing, but through my will and my tenacity, I was working as the treasurer, commodities house. Now, mind you, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I forced myself to be plugged in. And it says something about me, but it also says something about, I would come home, and I was living at home at the time, and my mother would say to me, you can quit if you want. You don't have to do this. And I thought, I am not quitting. I am going to make this thing happen. And I did make it happen, and I made it happen for a couple of years. And so my self-will is and can be out of control. And when I'm out of control, it's not pretty. It's like a train that is taken off, and do not get in the way. And that's part of my truth, and it's part of my character defects. And in telling my story about this, it gives me a lot of great reflection. When that train takes off, I realize, when it's off, nobody can get on or off. And how sad is that? I can't let people on. I can't let people off. There's no room for anything. And so my husband and I, we came back to New Jersey, and we both were humbled quite a bit about what California had for us. And I was in a car accident, and, what part of the reasons and the things that I used to do to help myself and to cope with addiction would shop, run, visit, and be very involved in other people's lives, not in my own. So I was so busy that God actually had to stop me with a car accident, that I was in so much pain, black and blue all over, that I had to stop. I couldn't run anymore. And that's when God started to deal with me. I had to look at what was going on. Because if you can run, if you can shop, if you can do this, visit friends, run here, run there, you don't have to stop and look at your life. And that's what my running was all about, is not looking and holding up that amazing Al-Anon mirror that we have now, and to say, what's going on? What are you doing? Is this working? And most of it wasn't. When I came to the rooms, I was really afraid, really, really afraid. I was afraid to tell my husband that I was there for him. And I didn't. I came for a couple of years, and he said, what are you doing that for? And I said, well, my dad was an alcoholic, and, it's just kind of what I need to do. And he'd say, okay, and I went to the meetings, and I started to sit. Now, I grew up somewhat religiously, but I didn't have a relationship with my higher power. In growing up with addiction, A lot of you know from the book From Survival to Recovery, there are different places that each child has in the alcoholic family: scapegoat, victim, cheerleader, that kind of thing. Pardon me. And what I was a scapegoat. And when I first read that book, I had such sorrow. I realized what had happened to me, and I was quite distraught about the whole thing. I didn't want to be a scapegoat. I didn't want to be a victim, but I realized that's what I was. And I wondered, how much am I contributing to that? And my sponsor, my first sponsor, who was wonderful and loving, and when I would tell her these horrible things, she would laugh, and I thought, I got to find out the name of her pharmacist. This woman, I don't know what she's taking, but she delighted in whatever we would go through together. And I'm so grateful to her love and her acceptance of my crazy, crazy stuff. I did end up making her my higher power. And I did realize in making her my higher power that that's exactly what I had done with the people in my family. I have 3 sisters, and my relationship with them, all of it was unmanageable because I put them up here. So that when they fell, how could you fall? I have these expectations of you. How could you fall? I need this from you. I'm not complete unless you help me here. But they kept falling. So I ended up building these calluses around my heart because I wasn't getting what I needed, and any place that I went to get it, nobody could give that to me. My heart hardened and hardened and hardened, and I've heard it said that to guard your heart, out of it flows the well springs of life. I wish somebody had told me that when I was a child, but again, what chance would I have had? Because unless somebody's meeting some of your needs, you don't know what that looks like. And when I first started to have love from my first sponsor, God bless her, she helped me through a lot of this. And I'll never forget the first time she stopped me in my tracks when I started to first get that first opening that I had some responsibility here. Oh, hated that part. Where she said to me, I was going on with my litany about the enemy. Do you know what he said? And he went this, and he did this, and he did this, and he said this, and finally I got done, and she was very quiet, and she said, you might want to listen. What? Listen to the enemy? Are you kidding me? Oh. I knew she loved me, and I knew she cared about me, and I knew she wouldn't say something unless I might get something out of it. So I had to stop and think, did he have a point? Was I still holding up these walls? Oh, you bet. You bet, man. These walls were reinforced, and a crack got in them. I take out a little cement, smooth it up, pat it down, keep these walls around me because I'm not getting hurt again. Everybody here, out, out, out. And program little by little by working with a sponsor and going to the meetings and hearing other people's truth and their hurt eventually started cracking so that I stopped paying attention to the wall until you softened my heart. I'm so, so grateful for your love. I'm so, so grateful for you letting your higher power work in your life, that you can see my truth and accept me, all of these cracks. My higher power has been working with me a lot. One of the funniest things that I remember in program was me, even though I'm kind of getting it, what I would do was I would try to influence my husband on my wonderful spirituality. Now, you know we have all these wonderful spiritual books. Well, what I would do, I would leave them open, of course, as you all know. I'm sure some of you have done this, maybe 1 or 2. The light's hitting in a certain way, so we open the book to the page where that I've conveniently highlighted, and that would just let him know about the nonsense that's going on in his life. See, honey, this is where the answers are. I can lead you home. Let me help you. I have all the answers, even though I'm a crazy mess. Let me just help you. because this is what I do. My addiction is people. But let me just help you, because it's not really what this is about. This is about me helping you. I love you. Come here, I love you. So my higher power, he knows that I have a sense of humor. And after me doing this for a while and praying, and a reminder to some of you who have prayed who don't think your prayers have been answered, I've heard it been said to me that prayers, once you say them, they're out there. There's no expiration date. They are out there. And God sometimes says yes, no, maybe, later, or I'll let you know. And I'm really, really grateful that I'm not running the show anymore, because I really made a mess of things. Well, my mother passed away, and it's interesting how addiction affected her. I look at my dad. He was the alcoholic, and I think he was in the hospital once for anxiety. My mother had 2 types of cancer. She had the brain tumor. She had problems with her knees. She had maybe, 5, 6 surgeries. And my alcoholic father, hospital once. He's still living. He's on oxygen. He'll be 90 in December, and he's in Florida enjoying himself. It lets you know, in Al-Anon, we can give our lives away, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I can do that like that. That's why I have to keep coming back. In realizing a lot of this and seeing what my mother went through, I thought, I've heard it said that smart people do what they can, but wise people learn from other people's mistakes. I thought, please, God, don't let me go down that road. I don't want to have 7 or 8 surgeries, although sometimes there's things that are in our genetics. I understand that. But a lot of this, I think, was my mother. I never remember her being sick. I remember her being laid out, exhausted, wiped out. Wouldn't say uncle. And I realize now through this wonderful program how to take care of myself. I'm tired. I actually lay down once in a while and sit. Can you imagine that? My mother was one for producing. You have to produce, you have to work, you have to work. Well, I've been on a mission these past couple years. I haven't worked. I think it's been maybe 4 years. And my husband and I agreed because of familial things that are going on. And I can't tell you what's going on in my head about worthwhileness, being a human being, not a human doing. My higher power is working with me, challenging my perceptions of what I think should be happening. And that's what I constantly need, and I need that from him. And God speaks through you. He constantly asks me, really? Is that what you think? Give it some time. Let me in. Let me show you. Well, my mom passes away. She had a major stroke, and I kind of knew that was it. And I drove up North Jersey, and we grew up about 20 miles outside of New York. And it was really, really difficult. The interesting thing is, I think my God only uses a really loud voice if I don't hear him the first dozen times. And I was listening before my mother died for about a year. I had this impetus, this great drive to go into meetings. And it was the strangest thing. I wanted to hit a meeting at least 1 every day, sometimes 2 a day. And I kept going and going. And someday, I see you here again. I was like, yeah, and so I was filling up this bank of spirituality and understanding and otherness, and that there is something else going on and it's not me. And then I got a call and my mother passed away. And I realized that was God talking to me. Fill this up because you're going to have to take a big withdrawal. And I went up there. And one of my sponsees, Jay, I called her, and she was going through some particularly rough things with active addiction. And I called her. I was leaving, and I told her what had happened. And she said, "You're calling me when your mother had a stroke to tell me you won't be able to meet me?" I didn't think anything of it. I thought, and I didn't realize it then, maybe it was about 10, 12 years in the program, that you people really are my family. The people I grew up with, yes, they are my family, but I believe more than anything they're my teachers. You are my family. Sorry. Nobody walking out. But you really are. You're my recovery brothers and sisters. And I like to say to beginners also, it's the person who knows your pain best is sitting right next to you. Imagine that, having that in common. So I went up north, and we dealt with my mother's death, and that was really lousy. But because I had program, and I'd been attending a lot of meetings and listening to what my higher power wanted me to do, it was so strange. It was God was working through me. There was one point where I had a brother-in-law that we were in the wake, and my brother-in-law, most of my family doesn't have recovery, and he said in front of my husband, who was kind of distraught, he said, here I am at this wake, and, I noticed that the other two brother-in-laws weren't up and talking to people, and they were just kind of sitting back, but I'm trying to talk to people and, talk them up and say thank you for coming and all that, but the other two are just sitting in the back, and I thought, oh, really? Oh, great. Let's have some more separation through all this stuff. And I felt horrible, and my husband said, why would he say something like that? I'm so upset, and everybody handles distress and grief in a different way. And as God would have it, thank you. The next morning, we were all staying in the house where I grew up in, which was an adventure. And he got up early and I got up early. And I sat next to him. I said, could you come here a second? Sat next to him on the couch. Now, mind you, this isn't me. I'm crazy. Sat next to him on the couch, held his hands, and I looked into his eyes, and we were knee to knee, and I said to him, I love you, I appreciate you, but I need you to talk to my husband. I need you to apologize for that. I said, we really, after this, don't have a reason to see one another. But I would like for you to reach out to him. I said, he's distraught. I said, you have no idea what he's done for my mother. He's given blood, he's done this, he's done that. And I said, but it's not his way to push this in your face. His way is very quiet. And I said, I love you and I'd like to be part of your life, but we need to try to meet where we can. Now, normally, Colleen would have said, are you crazy? This is about me. This is about my mother. Why are you making it about you? But here, because I've been going to meetings and remembering that there's something else, a spirit life going on, I tapped into that. And God allowed me to speak to him with love and concern, and tears streamed down his face, and they streamed down mine. So I was able to make a connection to him and love him. And he calmed down because I wasn't here. I wasn't pointing and saying, you. I'm saying, this is what I need. Could you do this? Thank you, God. Thank you. After my mother died, I like to say, well, I don't really like to say, but in the rooms in growing up with my father in the house that we grew up in, my dad was a shadow. He was not really there. And I missed him terribly. I remember the one time he took me for a walk to a duck pond, and I said to him the next Sunday, Dad, that was so great. Could we do that again? Yeah. I'd ask him every Sunday until finally the asking just wore out in me. And I started to realize, it doesn't matter if you ask. You just don't get what you want because you're not important. And that's what I believed. If I asked, it didn't really matter. And those are the messages I was given. And my mother, I've heard it said here, my mother was overwhelmed with 4 kids, a husband that had jobs on and off on occasion. My dad's definitely a functional alcoholic. And we just had to roll with it. And my mother did the best she could, but I believe that every time she didn't have time to have a sore throat or a problem, it had to lay her out in order for her to get what she needed. Anyway, God is so good. I believe he is the great recycler. He uses everything. And in my mother's death, I was so distraught. I didn't like her a lot of the time, but the thing was that I loved her, and I couldn't get her back. And the end of her life, pardon me, was it was really sweet. I got to accept her and love her and give her a break because of program. Because I didn't know how to do that, but you people taught me that love is cutting somebody a break, not holding them up to here. You better just... No, it's like, oh, okay, you can't do that. And she became a sweet older woman, and I was so grateful to have her in my life and to be able to have a little bit of that she wasn't able to give and I wasn't able to give, and we were just reacting to addiction. So here my dad is alone up North Jersey. I have another sister that's in New Jersey, another in Michigan, and another in Texas. And my dad's alone now, and I felt for him. And program has taught me not to look at what really is here, but to feel and to sense things that are not here, and to challenge my perception on all of this. While my dad wasn't there for me, I could very well have said, he'll be fine. He's always been fine. He's always taken care of himself. But I saw the hurt. I saw the distress. This was a shock to all of us. And I got to visit him. And I was the only one that would visit him on a regular basis. And we started to develop a relationship. And when I say develop a relationship, I started to hear who he was. With my mother around, she was extremely gregarious, very outgoing. At her funeral, I can't tell you, she was a school teacher, and she was a delight to the children. I mean, there were people, my father stood for almost 3 hours. There were people coming and going, and my mother was really the life, and my father was a shadow not only to me, but to her, because he had to be. My mother was the life. Well, seeing him without this life force started to let me focus in on who this man was that was not really in my life. And God gave that to me. That was a gift to me. And I made a choice, and I went up there, and let me tell you, I had my challenges. I truly did. There were things where we would not connect, where we would not join up, where there were misunderstandings, and I had to say, God, what's going on here? What's happening? Don't let me go back to my old thinking. You show me what's happening. You show me who he is. You show me what's needed here. Let me rise above this. Let me bring your spirit in here, my spirit that hasn't had a chance to flourish in this life. Show me what I'm supposed to do here. And I would sit and I would see things, and I would say, oh, he's scared. He's frightened. There was a part when his health started to deteriorate a little bit, and I heard that, and I said, I'm coming up, and we'll go to the doctor together. Oh, well, okay. And I came up, we went to the doctor together, we found out that he probably is going to start to need to have oxygen. And he was so grateful that I was up there, that my mother, before she had died, she'd say, my parents had lived very minimally and very modestly, and they had a couple of things that were maybe valuable in the home. And my mother's idea was, if you want something, take a sticky note, put your name on it, stick it on the bottom, so that when we get rid of everything, we know who goes to what. Now, come on, there's 4 girls, there's like maybe a handful of stuff. How many sticky notes are going to be in the bottom of that? And look, what kind of fight are we going to have with this thing? So I had a sticky note on the bottom of this marble table with beautiful cut leaf bottom, wooden bottom. And I was up there helping my dad, and my dad said to me, you take this table now. I want you to take this table. I said, Dad, you don't have to give me anything. I'm just here to help you out. I know, but you're the only one that's here, the only one that's doing anything. I want you to have this table. And I was like, well, Dad, I said, then you tell my youngest sister that you gave this to me, because I'm not going there. Well, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry about it. And he was stuttering. He was just so upset. And I said, okay. And he put another table there, and he brought that out, and we took it out to my car. And I said, thank you, Dad, but you really don't have to do that. It's not why I'm here. It's not why I'm doing it. He says, I want you to have this. I said, okay. Well, I took the table home, and I was grateful. And about a year later, the sister that wanted the table shows up. Now, she's there in the house, and I haven't seen her, and I forgot about the table because I have it next to my meditation chair in my bedroom, and I'm using it, and it works really well. It's not real big, and I love it. It reminds me of that time and the gifts that come through that. So my sister's there, and her daughter is there, and we're in the house, and my father's not around. He's running errands for one thing or another, and my sister gets me in the living room, and she said, "I gotta talk to you. What did you do taking that table? You've got a lot of nerve taking that. On top of all of the other stuff you've ever taken out of this house, and there's these teacups, and there's the jewelry box, and there's this other stuff, and how could you ever do that?" And me, with program, I just shut up, didn't defend myself, but I took note in my head of what she was saying. And I listened, and I didn't defend myself, and she said, "And Dad said he doesn't know why you took that." And I was like, all right, how are we going to handle this one? And I said, "I don't know what to tell you. I just need to tell you that he gave that to me, and I can't believe that he said that. And I'm really sorry that you feel that way." And I couldn't defend myself. I said, "I just don't know what to tell you. But I will talk to him," I'm thinking to myself. So I said, "But I hear you, and I thank you for sharing that with me." And I thought, woo! And, they say information is power. I thought, oh, okay, what do I do with this cannon? Now, my father says he doesn't remember. Okay. And I thought, this is not the time to talk to him while they're visiting, and he's all excited because family's here and that kind of thing. But I'm up the next weekend after my sister had left, and I said to him, now mind you, he's on oxygen. He's got this long tube. Anybody that's on oxygen, the tube runs around the house attached to this huge monstrous thing that's making all this noise, and it's like, it's not pretty. It's what people have to do, but it's still not pretty. So I talked about it, program, prayed about it, and here I am with this 85, 88, whatever he was at the time, and I said to him, "Dad, my sister said that, you don't remember doing this." "No, I don't remember it. I don't remember it." And I said, "Well, how could you not remember that? You told me to take this," and I wasn't accusing. I was just saying, I was trying to jog his memory. I said, you told me to take this, and yet now you say you don't remember." I said, "I can't understand when it was your idea." And I said, "No, you have to explain to her when she comes out, like, what happened with this." And he says, "Oh, I don't remember that." And he walks out. Okay, and there's his trail of oxygen tube. And I thought, and I said, "Okay, God, what do you want me to do here?" And I feel like this push. I go, "Really? You want me to follow this man on oxygen around and rail him about this thing? Oh, no. And I felt this push, and I follow him into the bedroom with his trail, because he can't really escape. There's a trail of oxygen. So I go in the bedroom, and I'm like, "Dad, I don't really want to talk to you about this, but I need the truth to be told, and this is how I remember it happening." And I told him what had happened and he said, "Well, I don't know about that." And I said, finally, I just said, I felt God just like go, end it. I said, "Okay, if you don't know that I've changed, if you can't remember that, then I really don't know what to say." I was very hurt. Tears started to come, and I thought, I need to leave. Left the house, walked out, and I drove home about 2.5 hours. And I was distraught the whole way home, crying. I thought, nice kick in the shins that was. Helping this guy who didn't show up for me, and now this is the reward I get. And I'm thinking, this, all right, I'm just trying to work my program, just trying to be kind and nice. Luckily, it was a nice long ride home. I get home, and there was a message on my machine, and he's stuttering again, and he says, honey, I just got to tell you, I've been thinking about what you said, and I think what you said is the truth. It really sounds a lot like what I do, and I'm really, really sorry. I guess this is really what happened, and I want to apologize to you. I'm really sorry for any confusion. And I'm going to tell Amy, I'm going to tell her this is what happened, and I really want you to know that this is what I'm going to do, and I'm really, really sorry. And I thought, really? The man that was a shadow in my life is now apologizing to me for not being there. And I thought, really, God, about me working my program? This is what happens. Me letting go of what's supposed to happen, I need to show up, do my thing, and let it happen. Well, my dad and I got closer, and I keep a miracle journal. And one of the great miracles was my cousin had said, after one of the times that I visited my dad, I would go to church with him and that kind of thing. And my cousin said to me, who's also really a sister, she said, your father just said to me, the light of my life just left today. I thought, wow, that's the gift of these rooms. A man who I didn't know refers to me as a light of his life. I'm really, really grateful. My father and I were in a diner after a Sunday service. And he says to me one day, we started talking about traveling. And I said, Dad, where have you been? He was in the Navy in World War II. He traveled all around. He had a very interesting life. He's an artist. And he had a sketchbook of different places that he'd been to, Guam, here, there. And it was really, he had a very, very interesting and diverse life. And I said, where would you like to go that you've never been? And he said to me, Ireland. And I remember sitting in a booth with him, and I will never forget this moment. Everybody in the restaurant receded, and my father and his words came up into my face, and I had to hold on to where I was sitting, and I realized, we're supposed to do this together. And I thought, I'm not saying anything about this. This is a little strange. This is very weird. And I thought, I'm just going to hand this over. I don't want to push. How's this going to happen with the money? Blah, 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 blah. And as it happened, my mother left each of us girls a couple $1,000s when she passed. The rest, of course, is left to my dad. We don't have a lot, but she wanted to leave a little gift to each of us. And I said to my sponsor, I know this money is for an important thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to dedicate it or do something. But then I thought, that's what the money's for. And I mentioned it to one of my sisters who's in recovery, and she said to me, yeah, you should do that. You should go with him. And this is before he was on oxygen. So I was like, oh, okay. And I thought, this is my sponsee and I used to talk about, when God wants something to happen, I believe he throws up green lights. And I thought, okay, well, let's see if this happens. Well, my sister said to me, I'll get you tickets, first class, round trip. Really? Yeah, and somebody else said, well, we'll give you some spending money. We'd like for you to, and I thought, really? And then somebody said, yeah, well, maybe about reservations over here. And I thought, I better make some plans. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is absolutely amazing. And meanwhile, my husband's still drinking secretively. And my life's going on. My program taught me, mind your own business. Let things go. Let things happen the way they're supposed to. And my prayers were still out there. And I thought, you know what? I dropped the books. I put them next to my bedside. A couple other books sponsee had recommended to me, the big book. And I'm so grateful for you double winners. And I put them all inside the bed, forgetting about it. You know what? His life is his life. I will just make do my program, just do what I need to do, and it's up to me and God. And I felt a lot of peace about that. So anyway, this trip to Ireland starts happening, and I make plans, and I thought, this is part of the gifted program, okay? I leave the consequences up. I mean, I'm getting money, free tickets. It's like, talk about green lights. I was blown away. And we're over there, and it was crazy. crazy. The last time I'd been there, my husband and I went on our honeymoon, and Ireland was just bumpy, old roads, everything very slow. Well, they had a boom, and I was like, there are highways all over, driving on the wrong side of the street. I got somebody with me that has macular degeneration. The signs are in Gaelic and in English, so I'm driving around these circles like a couple of times. Dad, can you see that? I can't see anything. I'm like, what are you doing to me? This is like not a vacation. And there are many times where I'd be like hugging the road because I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. I'm hugging the road. We get out of the car, and the whole side of the car has got grass stains, like webbed against. There's pieces of grass because I'm like hugging the road because, the roads are like this big. I'm crazed. There was at one point, I remember going into a bed and breakfast, and I went up to the woman, and my father has been sitting in the passenger side, just like, hanging out, not really participating, surprise, and not reading signs, surprise. And I go up to the woman in bed and breakfast, and I hugged her. I said, I am so glad to see you. I've never met her before. And the funny thing is, she said to me, oh, darling, I know what you're going through. She said, I just drove my 80-year-old mother around last year. She says, it's a bit much, isn't it? I was like, oh, at least you gave me somebody that gets me. So I thought, this is the miracle of program. I get to have this restored relationship with my father, whatever it looked like. And I'm letting that go. And I thought that me seeing this, that this is what it was. Little do I know, God's still at work elsewhere. I come home, and meanwhile my husband been saying to me, this is a horrible idea. Do you know how old that man is? He's going to die over there. What are you going to do driving around with a body? This is really not good. Prophet of doom. Do you realize how much trouble you could get into? And my sister said to me, who gave me the ticket, she goes, they have body bags. We'll ship them home. I thought, oh, I never thought of that. This is great, I think. So we get home, and my husband, who'd been the prophet of doom about this, looked different. And he'd been really angry with me before I left and not happy at all, and made sure in a lot of ways that he knew that I was doing the wrong thing. But God gave me all these green lights. Are you kidding me? Who gets first class free round? No, I don't think so. And it was wonderful. And I came home and a little exhausted, but my husband had flowers for me at the airport, and his face had changed, and there was something different. And the books that I had on my side of the bed, one of them he picked up, and he picked up the big book. How do you like that? All those times I left out these wonderful spiritual books, I thought this was about me. I'm supposed to save people. That's what I do. But my God, who's got such an amazing sense of humor, that said, Colleen, other people's recovery has so little to do with you. You know how much? You're going to be out of the country. Not just out of New Jersey or the United States. You are going over to Ireland to let you know, he is mine. How great is that? How great is that? And he said to me, I think I went to a meeting. Do you think I'm an alcoholic? And you know what I said? I don't know. I knew. Where did that come from? But program really lets me know I don't know anything. He does. My higher power. I can't even tell you what this program has done for me. Last year was probably one of the worst years of my life. I had a really, really difficult time. My husband had a health crisis. And now, from being in program for a little while, I realized, okay, I'm going to a 10-mile radius, getting all of the help that I can possibly need. I made phone calls, I talked to friends, and God supplied every one of my needs in this. And I was blown away. I remember at one point I was in the emergency room about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had a peace that I didn't understand. I thought, normally in a situation like this, I'd be pulling my hair out in clumps. And here it was. I'm sitting there, and I realized I'm covered. And I didn't know how. I didn't know how I would get through these things. I didn't know how life would go. But I trusted, because I have a miracle journal. I write down how my higher power has been working in my life. And when I forget, which I do very frequently, I open up the book and I go, oh, come on, Colleen. Come on, look at how God has worked. Look what he's done, because you know this isn't me. And what I'd like to do now, out of gratitude, is just leave you with a little something. And remember, take what you like and leave the rest. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. But now I am found, was blind, but